In the last lecture, we learned very nicely about how to use Kali Linux and a lot of commands about it. This lecture will be a similar format, however, now we are going to learn about Windows. I'm going to use Windows 10 because I have it right now, and I am aware very well that Windows 11 has also been released, but for the most part, it's pretty much the same thing. So it's not very, different apart from the looks. So it's like, some more modern look and a few different things. But however, the basics are going to be the same. So you don't need to care about whatever Windows you're using. Let it be XP, 7, 10, 11, whatever that might be. It will still work the same way, and this video is going to be relevant for each of them. So, basics of Windows. Now, this will be, as I said, in a very similar format to what we did in the last lecture. I don't need to install Windows in any virtual machine this time, especially because I already have my main, operating system here as Windows itself. So I will not need a virtual machine to explain it. I can explain it directly right here. So I think everyone is aware about this interface because it's just so common. Windows operating system is very, very common. So, this thing is our desktop, the first thing we get after we log into a system, okay? Here we have this PC. This PC is basically your, the place from where you see all the disk drives and things like that, the hardware connected. You have the recycle bin, so it's like the trash in Linux, where all the deleted files actually go, okay? Except when you delete them from the command line. And Windows also has a command line, but first we are talking about the graphical things. If you go and see what's there in the downside, you will see a taskbar. So this taskbar, just contains all your applications. There's this start menu, some pinned tools of my own, and here I have some tools that I have just installed in here, and you can turn off the system and things like that. Now I know this is very basic for someone who is already using Windows for a long time, like most of you guys, I guess. And don't worry, I'll teach you something new as well, which will be in the command line part. But for someone who might just be, aware about Mac OS or might not have just dealt with Windows that much, I think it's very important. So here you can see, things like Wi-Fi and stuff. If you have some Wi-Fi in your range, you can just connect to it. Speaker volume and notifications, date, time, things like that. So very basic, right? Now here I'll open up this PC for you. So when you open this PC, in earlier version of Windows, it's called My Computer. And this is one of the icons that you will see on your desktop. Or you can even, in case you don't see it, you can just do it from the settings. You can, unhidden it basically. Now, once you open this PC, you will just see devices and drives that are connected to your system. So I have the local disk C, D, E, F. What you'll notice is that these are named drives. In Linux, we don't usually see, name drives. Okay, so here we have C, D, E, F. In very earlier days, there used to be A and B as well, for things like floppy. However, they are not used in today's, trends. So that's not important to know. So it starts with C. Here, C is usually your Windows operating system. That means the actual place where your system has been installed. Other drives are for storage purposes. And so I hope that is very clear till now. In this PC, you can also see some things like folders. So some frequent folders you might want to use. These are the default folders that are, just there by the system itself. You can go ahead and see what you have downloaded, documents, desktop pictures, videos, a lot of things here. Now, let me just tell you that you can also search something. So if you're looking for a specific file, just type that term in here and search it. And then of course you can go ahead and minimize this or maximize the window or even just close the whole window. Alright. So this is very basic stuff. Again, you can view some certain things in different ways. So in the view tab, go extra large, large, and things like that. Now, obviously, this will be a bit different in each different version of Windows. If you're using Windows 7, it will be different. If you're using Windows 11, it will again be different. So I'll not go very specific to anything related to Windows 10. I want to tell you the general stuff which is common to all the versions. Now in the C drive, which is your main system's operating system drive, so all of the folders related to the system are usually here. Alright, and here you have one of the folders, main folders, it's called program files. Whatever softwares you installed, that will just come up in this place. There is also an x86 named folder, so it's very similar thing, but for the 32-bit and 16-bit kind of software. So, more old kind of softwares will just come in this place. But new softwares will usually be on the program files without that x86. So that is one thing I want to tell you. Then you have users. So specific users data will go here just like we had in Linux, and you can go ahead and open a specific folder for any user. So for example, I open Avinash in here. This is the name of one user and it's also my name. So it's that here. It's all the user files. And we also have a public, for guest and public kind of users. And we don't need to care much about that. Oh, and one more thing which I forgot was in every user you will have some common folders like downloads. So whatever this user has downloaded will generally come up or by default come up on this downloads. So you can see the name of a just famous song coming when I hover the mouse over it. So things like that. I hope it's very clear till now. And then you have your Windows folder here as well. So Windows is the place where all the system related files will come. So I just maximize the window and now it looks much clearer. Now here you can actually find system and system32 named folders. So here we have a system and system32. These are also very main and core components of Windows operating system, where all the DLL and exe files are usually just stored. So this is and these two folders are actually very important. Sometimes we can also find a folder here, which in this case we're not seeing, is called inetpub. So that is for the that's like the default folder for the web server software in Windows. So if you see that inetpub named folder, it will be a default folder for the Windows, default kind of web server software. But you don't need to care about that. That will be a bit specific for pen testing. Since we are learning, in general, Windows right now, we'll not be talking about that. So I'll just cut this for you right now. And one thing which you should know is that if you right click on this PC and click on properties, you will be able to see very clearly some basic information about your computer. So for example, which Windows edition you're using. Now I'm definitely using a very, much updated version of Windows, but however, because when I installed it, it was 2018, so for some reason it has not updated it, but it's definitely 2022 right now, so yeah. And we have the processor, RAM and things like that. I hope everyone is aware about these. And then you can see Windows activation, so some things like that. So all these basic information come here. Now, if you just create a folder here, or you don't need to actually create a folder, let's go again to the C drive. So I click on this PC on the desktop, and then I reach here, local disk C, and here again I am on the same directory. Now, with Linux, we had some hidden files and folders. So we can also see some hidden folders in Windows. Right now, I have not applied that setting, so I can only see the unhidden or the visible folders. If I click on this view tab and say hidden items, I should be able to see some more hidden files. So hidden files are not visible normally, but when we just, do that check mark on this hidden items, we would be able to see all these special hidden items here as well. And these are more system related, so the ones that are that just look a bit different than and not very bright in the icon, so they will just be like that. And I will uncheck it again because I don't want to mess with those settings. If we go to desktop or anywhere, basically if we do right click, we should be able to see some basic options, for example view. So again, to change the folder icons, whatever files are there, sort by, we can sort all of these things by name, size, refresh, and we can delete something if we select something. So I right click on one of these icons or files and I can delete it and cut, copy, paste basic things. I can make some new folder or file here of a specific type, even a shortcut if I want to. I can go ahead and personalize and set things like the wallpaper. So all of those basics come in here. You can go to the start menu and search something, for example settings, and then you will be able to easily manage all these settings of all the kinds that you might want to work with in here. So these are all the basics about the graphic interface of Windows, and now we'll get into the command line just like we did previously in the Linux lecture. So now one thing you should understand actually is that when you're in Windows, it's you will have two types of command line. So you have one CMD, okay, it's called command prompt, and one which you see in the newer versions of Windows, it's called PowerShell. So PowerShell is a new thing that they have just made, and this is also a very powerful thing. However, since we are about to learn basics in here, we will not touch PowerShell. If you would like another lecture for PowerShell, just let me know and I'll create that as well. But in the basics, I'll be considering the traditional command prompt, which is extremely important for you to know. More important than the PowerShell, because it is a basic and you need to understand this first of all. PowerShell is also very important, but first of all you need to learn this. So just go to your start menu, search for CMD, open the command prompt. Again, you will see that you can right click on any of these icons or results that you see. I did it for the command prompt, and you can run it as administrator. So here I have run this CMD as an administrator. This is where we type commands and execute them. Now what you will notice is that it's always different. So there are two types of CMD or any program in general that you might be able to access. If you're accessing it directly, it will be without admin rights. This is a normal type of CMD you're accessing. And then there's a different complete, the one that I just showed you earlier with administrator privileges, that will be a different command prompt for the administrator user. And when you're, just opening it directly without run as administrator, then that will be this standard user's command prompt. So in Windows, they are different. And in Linux, we just directly did that su and sudo kind of commands, and we were able to use root and the normal users in just one terminal. So it's not possible directly, or at least in any easy way when it comes to Windows. So for a recap, I'll just go ahead and again open the start menu, type CMD to search it, and command prompt. Just open it directly, and this is what we're going to work with right now. So again, you can right click on the command prompt, the title bar that you see here, and do properties and increase the font size and some things you might want to play with. But it's perfect for this lecture, I guess. Now, some command line basics that you need to understand when it comes to Windows CMD. It is non-case sensitive. So in Windows, or actually when we did it in Linux, it was case sensitive. That means we were, typing, if we were typing something like QWERTY and QWERTY in capital, so small case and lowercase was different in Linux. Or, I mean, small case and uppercase was different in Linux. However, in Windows, they are treated the same. So, a file with this name, small letter A and capital letter A, that means the exact same thing in Windows. So, that means it is not case sensitive. Just like you did in Linux, you can use up arrow key for any previous any previous command that you have typed. For example, I type any random things in here and I do up and down arrow keys, I can move through the history. And I already explained you there is a different CMD for admins. If you want to clear this screen in a Windows command prompt, you can just do CLS. So instead of clear, just say CLS. That means clear screen. So that was the just first command I explained to you. And now let's get into the actual commands. When I was teaching you Kali Linux, I taught you one of the most basic commands, which was touch. So if we wanted to create a file, we did touch. Alright? So in Windows, I just want to let you know that there is not something as direct as touch to make a file. But there are some tricks or workaround methods that we can use to make an empty file, and then we can fill it with data as well. Okay, so here now as you can see, I am in C drive users Avinash. So this is my directory here. So what I'll be doing, and that basically means I'm on this Avinash folder. So let me do one thing. Let me just go to desktop here, and I'll show you how to navigate properly later on, but I just went to desktop here with CD. So CD still works in Windows the same way it did in Linux to change the directory, alright? So you just change directory to desktop. And if you wanted to see the contents of a directory, you can just say dir, and you had some of these files here, as you can see on the graphical side as well. But I'll just clear the screen because I'll talk about all of this a bit later in the video. First of all, let's talk about the touch command. In Windows, you do not have a touch command. So if you want to create a file, there can be some workaround methods you might want to use. This is the easiest command that you can use, and it is very logical to use. So what you're doing is basically you're copying nothing into a file. The only reason you're doing it this way is because there is no actual alternative to touch command. You cannot just directly create an empty file in a Windows terminal or Windows command prompt. So this is the way you'll be doing. What you're doing is essentially you're just copying null. Null means nothing to a file name. So just give whatever file name you want to give in here to this new file, and it will be completely empty. So I just put some random name here. I also specify the extension .txt and I press enter. You can see it says one files copied, and we can also see it in the desktop graphically here that we have 1, 2, 2, 3, this new file created, and of course it's empty when we directly open it. So this was the very first thing. Now you could actually have used another way for this. So I just clear the screen, and let me tell you another way to do the same thing. Just type whatever you want here. So any random command that does not actually exist. So I type any random thing here, and I put this greater than sign here, and I say the file name I want to make the file with. So file.txt, let's say. So I put any random thing here, which should of course not be an actual command. So you're putting a random thing here, and you're outputting that. This greater sign means outputting that, the output of this command that doesn't even exist to this file. If I press enter, of course I'll get to see an error here. However, it just does the job. The error comes because we typed this just doesn't exist. I just typed something random here, a random tool, which does not exist. So it's not an actual command. But because it will create no output, because it simply doesn't exist, and we are putting that output on this file with this name, so that will just, of course, throw this error, but at the same time will make the file for us. Alright, and this does not has to be whatever random I have put here. You could do anything simple. For example, you do this. And of course, I need to change the file name. So you can see it created file 1 again. So you can create files in either of the two ways, whatever you like. The next thing I'd like to show you is how do you actually see the contents of a file. Now I'll just delete some of these files and just keep this one, which is the file.txt. So if you want to see what's there in a file, in Linux we used cat followed by the name of the file we want to see the contents of. In Windows there is a similar command which is type. So here we say type filename.txt. So of course the file name here is file, so I'll just say that and press enter. Obviously it's not gonna show us anything because we just created this file and it does not has any contents right now at all. What do we do then? Let's add some contents into it. The simplest way, which also works in Linux by the way, I did not cover this in the last lecture, but it's very basic. What you can do is echo whatever you want to put in the file into, so this two greater marks just means into the file name. So I'm just echoing, you can think of it, echo is a very big term, but for now, for this purpose, think of it as putting whatever text we put after it into the file. So this just represents putting that into the file, and we just type the text here and the output file name here. Press enter. Since it does not show any error, that means it did the job. We can graphically see by double clicking on it, and we can see obviously that it has just done the job very correctly. So 1, 2, 3 has been inputted into this file. Let's use type again here to see the contents of it from the command line itself. So we have 1, 2, 3 in here, and now it shows the contents. Earlier, because there was nothing in the contents of this file, it did not show anything. Now it shows because there is some content. So it just shows you the full contents of the file. And we can actually look at one more command similar to this, to just add some content to a file, which is copy con. So we just say copy con and file name.txt. So this is to create a file. It's not to input anything on it. It's another way you can create a file, but you will get the option to input enter the contents of it right away. So you just do copy con file name.txt. You can use this as a kind of alternative to the nano and other kind of text editors you had in Linux. See, because in Windows you again do not have an actual command line based text editor. So you will not be able to use that. Of course you can type notepad here, but in case you only have command line access to a system, which you will usually have, then you don't have any option. So you can just use it as a workaround for a small technique to just get the work done. Copy con followed by the file name you want to create. What's different about this is that as soon as you press enter, you will see that the marker reaches here. Now we can type whatever we want in this thing, right? So we just put any content we wanted, and then what we did was, for example, I put some more content here, and if we want to save the file, we can just do Ctrl Z on our keyboard. So just say Ctrl and Z keys, alright, and that will not be inputted into the actual file, so it is never inputted. You just enter, press enter, and you say, it says file copied. So now we have this new file with the file name, and now we directly put some content onto this. However, it is not very good for modifying the contents, because if I just do that same command again, copy con file name.txt, you will see I again get this blank. So I will be able to put some content, and if I do Ctrl Z again, you will notice that it will simply override the file name with the new content, so which is not very good for our purpose. Now, what if you want to keep the original content and then edit something to it? Again, you will have to use the type command for it. So simply see the contents of the file using type filename.txt as we did earlier, and then go ahead and it just shows you all the contents of the file. Now what we want to do is, for example, copy this and then again do that copy con, okay, to that file, and then paste all of that. So now the pasting is another problem we face here. It's not very easy to paste the things, but it is definitely possible to do that. So let me try Ctrl V, and you can see, yeah, so now let me tell you how to actually copy something. It's very interesting thing. Now, as we can see the contents of the file here again, so forget about what I did earlier. I see the contents of this file, I can copy it with Ctrl C on my keyboard and selecting it with the mouse, and then again do copy con file name.txt. I do it. Now, of course, I will need to paste the things here, but if I right click here directly, it does not work very nicely. So what you'll be doing is that you put anything from your keyboard like Q, and it says override file name.txt. Do we want to override the file name? Just say yes. And now it will give us the option to just paste something very nicely. So it just wanted to confirm. We type anything, press enter, it just says, do you want to override the file name.txt or whatever file it is? Just say yes, and then it will work like a charm. Just right click and paste the things. So I'll copy that again, and we can do Ctrl V. Alright, so now it's pasted here, and you can make the necessary edits very well here. Again, Ctrl Z to save it, and you can do enter to just get the job done. So it's a bit tricky, I know, and it's not as simple as Linux, but it still gets the job done, and most people don't know about it. So it's very important. You can see the new things have been updated in here as we wanted. So that was about the basic file management. Now let's also understand how would you create a folder instead of a file. It's very similar to what you did in Linux. In fact, it's the exact same. The command is same, mkdir, that means make directory, and directory means a folder. So just say mkdir and the name of the folder you want to create. Let's say 1233, or let me use a more normal name. So I just put the name of the folder as folder 1. Press enter, and you can see the folder 1 has been created. Obviously it's going to be empty here. So this is very easy stuff. Again, if you want to, so as I told you in the very early part of this lecture, which was not supposed to be explained it there, but now it is the time to actually understand it. If you do dir, that will just list the contents of the present directory that you're in. Okay, and if you want to see where you are, it's very similar. You just do, you don't even need to do anything. You can see it always here directly. So you will not actually need to see where you are in any other way. This is the simplest way because it's always already visible in the system. So you just see the full location here directly. Okay, so you are doing and seeing it in the directory. Another way actually is that wherever you are, let's say you don't see it for some reason, just do dir, and here you will already see which directory you're in, because that is the only directory it will show you the contents of. So that's a simple trick or tip, you might say, for the same thing. So it's very clear, I hope, till now. Now, as I told you earlier in the graphical, sometimes we we might need to see some hidden files which are not visible directly. In graphical, we just click on the view tab and check hidden items. How do we see hidden directories and files when it comes to command line? So you will have to put a switch here. Now here's a new thing. How would you apply a switch to a Windows command? Because in Linux, what we did essentially was, putting that after a dash. In Windows, you actually do that after a /. So any switch thing you want to put, it's done after a /. In this case, it is -a. -a means all, which will include the hidden files. So just say dir with the switch all, press enter, and now it will also show you some additional files here that were actually not shown earlier. So I think there are no special files, or okay, so 11 files. There is definitely one file increasing. As you can see, earlier it was 10 and now it's 11. So let me just see. Alright. So I was just confused actually, because I was thinking I was in the C directory and then I was trying to see the old things we saw in here. But obviously I am right now in C user Avinash desktop. So we are in the desktop itself right now. So yes, there are no special hidden files, or maybe not a lot of hidden files in here. Let me show you something interesting. How would you open, if you have graphical access to a system, just for general knowledge, if you go to any of the folder and then on the address bar here, you click on it and just type cmd in here and press enter, it will open cmd in that location. Okay, now I know it looks very small, so let me just go to properties and just change the size a bit. Okay, so here we are on the C directory now after just clicking on this address bar and typing cmd, pressing enter. Now we are on this C. If we do dir/a here, you can see we will see a lot of the hidden files here as well. So yeah, which we don't see normally. We'll have to apply that hidden check mark. So that is how you see the hidden files as well when it comes to command line. If you want to also see something inside the folders, you can do -s. So it's a very simple thing. Let me just go ahead and create a folder here, or a file here inside the folder 1. It's called 1. So if we want to do dir/s, what that will show us is not just the contents of this, or alright. So it's, yeah, it's correct. So basically what it's doing, we run the command on this location, desktop, and we specified that dash or /s here as the switch. So /s means search folders as well. That means it's going to show every single thing here. Okay, so in the folder, like you can see, it showed us the contents of the desktop directory, but not only that, it also went one step further and showed us the contents of the folder 1 without us asking for it specifically, right? So it's also showing us the contents of folder 1, the file I just created. As you can see, it shows the 1.txt I created there. So it's very, very easy stuff that I hope you understood. /s is for a more detailed search that will also show you the contents of every directory inside the directory you're currently in. So if that makes sense to you, we can move forward. Now it is going to be very, very easy because we have already covered all the basics. And then at the end we'll come to copy, paste, delete. So if we want to, for example, see what processes are running or tasks are running in our system, in Linux we could have used the ps command for processes. In Windows we can use task list. I press enter and it shows me all the tasks or processes or tools or applications, whatever is running right now, along with their ID and session name. and even memory uses in this case. So that's how I can see all of the processes using the task list command. Before going to the copy paste part of this lecture, let me tell you one more thing. So earlier we just created these two files, right? Now let's say you want to search the contents of one of these files. For example, file name .txt that we created in the first part, or a few minutes before in this lecture basically. So in Linux we use that grep. We are going to do how to do that grepping work when it comes to Windows. So that means how do you search for a specific line in a text file. For that, just do something like, type file name .txt. So you're basically viewing the the contents of this file. Okay, so you can do it. And now we are going to search for this specific line that contains the letter E, for example. Okay, so that's different. That's not in any other line. So it should show us this line when we search for E. Okay, how do you do that? It's very simple. If you have watched my previous video on Linux, then it's the same technique. You have this normal type command typed in here, and then you're just doing a pipe. Pipe means you're sending the output of the first command to the another command. What's going to be the another command? In case of Linux, it was grep. In case of Windows, it's find str. Okay, and then you will simply type whatever you wanted. For example, you wanted to type something like, or as I said, we want to search for this E, so we'll just say E. And you can see it searches the string and just shows us the line in which it finds it. If we type something that is not present anywhere, for example U, it will not give us any output. So that is just a way to find something, find a specific line in the text file that contains the letter or number that you have typed in here. Next, we can talk about some other things. So we are almost done with the basics. The only thing which is pretty much left is copy paste. However, there are a few more small commands. So for example, you want to see what is the name of the user that you're currently using the computer with. You can just do who am I in here. I press enter and you can see this is the complete name of the user, Avinash, right? And it is under the compro-avi name computer. So first what you see is the name of the computer. I guess that is what it is. So you can just see the name of the system directly. As you can see, you just had the, if you just right click on this PC and say properties, you will see the computer name. So it is compro-avi. And of course that is also reflected in the who am I command. But the actual thing that you see in the last is basically what your user is. You can also sometimes see that here on the on the command prompt itself. Okay. If you want to see some more detailed output, you can specify /all here, enter. This will show you some more detailed information about the user. And I hope that this makes a lot of sense for you. Of course, using this information is another thing. How would you use this information? It actually tells you what privileges you have right now. So what you can do, or what are the permissions of this whole user that you're in. So who am I works very similar to what you did in Linux. /all is for seeing more detailed information about the user itself. You can also use echo /%username. Not the slash. So echo %username %. If you do it, you'll be able to see just your name of the user. So if you don't want to get confused with the computer name and things like that, this is the easiest command to go after when it comes to Windows. If you use a command called netuser and press enter, it will show you all of the user accounts that are in the system. So the system name is compro-avi, and compro-avi, if you don't know, that is actually kind of my name on the internet. I just use it as a username. It's not like a company or something. At least till now, it's just me. So that is the name of this computer. And what are all of the user accounts in it? So if you want to see what are all the users in the system, you can just see it. Administrator Avinash, default account, some default or system account, and then you have some guest. Okay, so we have all of these accounts. Main things are administrator and Avinash. So we see all of the users when we type net user. If we do net user followed by a name of any specific account you would like to get the information of, for example Avinash, you press enter and then you can see a lot of information about the username. Okay, so a lot of the things basically. Password last set, and you know how many important things. So user may change password, yes, so it has the permission and things like that. So a lot of the things, if you want to specifically see information about any user, net user followed by the name of the username is basically what you want to use. And you can, of course, I guess you cannot do it for the administrator from a normal account. Let's try that. So administrator, and you can see you were able to see some information about that as well. Most probably because my user is actually at an administrator level as well. So it's not like a standard account. It's one of the types of administrator, but it's fine. Okay, so we have learned about all of these things. One more thing before coming to copy pasting stuff is system info. So if you just go ahead and type the system info command in Windows terminal, or command prompt, press enter, and it will show you a lot of system related information here which might be helpful to you as a hacker. And it's loading a lot of information here. Let's wait. Alright, so now it is taking a lot of time. I just waited for a few minutes and it's not giving us the information. If you want to cut or basically close, exit from a running command, basically just press Ctrl+C keys together. Alright, so just before I press that, it just gave me the information. So we can try that again. If we just do system info, it will just give us all of the important information about the system, as I was talking about in earlier. So here, operating system name, version, manufacturer, so many things you can possibly use to hack into a computer and use it for your advantage as a hacker. So a lot of this information. Now we are finally going to talk about the last topic, which is copy, cut, delete from the command prompt. So for this, what I'm going to do is, let's just copy this file, or actually, so let's just copy this file.txt from our desktop where we are currently in to inside this folder 1. Let's see how to do that. In Linux, you had the command called cp for the copy purpose. In Windows, it's very straightforward. You directly say copy. So copy what you want to copy, like file.txt in my case. You can even give the full location to it. So in case you were not in the same directory, you could have right-clicked on the actual file, saw the properties, and have just seen the full location, and you could have put that right here. Alright, so it's very easy. So you just say copy file.txt, and after that where you want to copy it. In my case, it is in /folder, folder 1. Alright, I just press enter. And you can see it says access denied. Okay, I think I just put a wrong thing here, /folder 1. Interesting. So basically the problem that I have done here is that when it comes to giving the, where you want to copy this file to, you will have to use the full path. So we'll just right click on this folder 1 properties and give the full path to it rather than a small path. So that is how it will work. I just give the full path to the file. So here's what the syntax actually means. Copy what you want to copy, where you want it to be copied. Press enter. And now you can see it is still not working. Let's see. Okay, I need to remove this slash here. So now it should be perfectly working. Let's press enter. You can see it got finally copied. So I was making so many mistakes. I actually did this copy work from a long time. So I obviously made some mistakes. You say copy the file you want to copy where you want it to be copied. Don't use any slashes here, and always give the full path for the URL, or for the where you want to copy the file. Similarly, you can move a file here. For example, you want to move this file.txt to, the folder 1. So it's very easy, and let's also check if it has been copied or not. So if we go to folder 1, we can see we have the file here. Let's delete it. And now what we'll be doing is moving the file completely from here to folder 1 instead of copying. So it's very similar. Again, you do mv, alright, and mv in Linux and move in Windows. So it's again very straightforward. Similar syntax, file.txt, the file you want to move and where you want to move it. So I'll just give the same address basically here as well. Press enter and you can see one file has been moved. And we can see that here very clearly. We can even go to that folder and see that very easily. So just cd folder 1, dir, and we can see it has been copied here, file.txt. Now what if you want to delete this file here? So if you want to delete a file, very easy. Just use del. In Linux it was rm, in Windows it is del. Alright, so you just do del and the file you want to delete, file.txt, press enter. It does not show us any error, that means it has been deleted. Let's do dir again to check the contents. You can see there is not that file.txt here anymore. So it's very easy. Let's try to also delete a folder. So we'll come a step back. Alright, it's a very important thing I have to tell you, which I'm going to tell you right now. How do you move a step back when it comes to using the cd command? You can just do cd ... So just very similar to what you did in Linux. That means you'll be moving a step back to the previous folder you were in. So instead of the current folder, just one step back. For example, from folder 1 to desktop. Press enter and you can see we are on desktop right now. Can we delete a folder directly without any special switch? I say delete folder 1, which is this folder here. Press enter and you can see it is saying, are you sure you want to delete or not? Of course I'm sure. And you can see it does not delete it. So what do? Let me introduce you now that when you're not sure about the syntax of any command, what do? So here we are in a situation where I don't know, and I honestly do not know what will be the syntax to delete a folder. So let's see what we can do. In Linux, when we wanted to know the syntax or some help about a command, we just use --help. However, in Windows, we have a similar thing, which is basically /?. So I do that after any command, not just del, basically any command, and I can press enter. Okay, and that will just show me some help menu for this. So if we want to delete a file or folder, probably I need to put some of these switches here. We can see we have -p, f, s, and all of these things. So let's see what that means. And we can just see all of the important things that matter. So let me just see. If we want to delete a file that is hidden, we can use dash or /h. And let's see. Alright, so we cannot actually see something to delete a folder here. So, alright, so probably that means we cannot delete a folder here directly. Then I'll have to introduce you to another command here, which is rmdir. So that is the command you use in Windows command prompt if you want to delete a folder directly. So this del will only work for files, not folders. The simple way to delete a folder is rmdir and the name of the folder you want to delete, folder 1, and you can see it has been deleted. But remember, it cannot be recovered. It just goes from the computer forever. It's very hard or almost impossible to recover files that are deleted from the command line. Same goes with Linux and same it's with the Windows command line. When you delete something, that's pretty much gone forever. So we are pretty much done. Again, remember the cls command to clear the screen. Okay, and before going, let me tell you one more small thing. If you want to see the history of your whole commands, whatever you put on this session or on this window of command prompt, if you want to see the history of commands, just do dos/key/history. In Linux, it was a very simple history command directly. In Windows, this is the command you have to use. DOS key is the actual tool, and when you do the switch of /history, you just simply get whatever commands you have typed from a long time. So, you can see all of these things that I did for you right now, and we can see all of that in here. So that is basically what I just wanted to teach you, and I hope all of it is very clear to you, because I wanted to tell you about Linux and Windows, of course, because a lot of people forget about Windows. When it comes to hacking and they get access to Windows systems, they just panic. And once you know all of these basic commands and things I have taught you, you will be very comfortable with using it. Again, remember there is another type of command line in Windows, which is PowerShell. So this is not something we are going to cover right now, because this was a basic lecture, because the name of the lecture was Basics of Windows. So this is an advanced topic, however super useful if required later. And if you specially ask for me, if you specially ask me for making a lecture on this, sure, I'll be happy to make a lecture on that as well. But for now, this is all I wanted to teach you. Thank you so much, and now I'll see you in the next lecture. I hope you have a great day.